Good morning, you're watching the morning news show here on CNN News 18. I'm Sakshi Singh Litoria, here to walk you through all the latest developments from across the globe in the next half an hour. Now, our top focus continues to remain on all that hubbub around the implementation of UCC, because days after Prime Minister Modi made a pitch for the Uniform Civil Code, the debate that erupted over it continues to simmer. Now, the UCC has divided the opposition to some extent after the Aam Aadmi Party extended support to centre. Many political parties have not supported the Uniform Civil Code, whereas the Grand Old Party is yet to make up its mind. Congress sources have told CNN News 18 that Congress does not want to take view on UCC till state polls are actually over. Now, the party will do an internal survey to get opinion of political leaders. Sources have also said that some leaders have given feedback that it could hurt minority vote. Meanwhile, the TMC has called UCC an attempt to divide the country.
Your stand on the UCC, even as your party has yet to make up its mind and they're waiting for the Law Commission?
Yeah, I think the party is yet to take a formal position. All I'm doing is quoting the views expressed by Jawaharlal Nehru, who said that a uniform civil code is something that's desirable, but that you have to take everyone along with you. It can't be imposed on people. And that's precisely the situation that I think we're facing, because for very many people in our country, these are entrenched rights that they've enjoyed since the days of the British. And whenever you take away something from people, there's going to be resistance. That's the challenge we face. It is true, as the Prime Minister said, that the Supreme Court has often called for this to be taken forward. But the bottom line that we have to face is that it hasn't been possible to build political consensus on this, or even social consensus amongst those most likely to be affected. Right now, no one has actually circulated the draft of a UCC. So we don't really know. I mean, there are some right-wing Hindus who are saying, we don't know what Hindu practices might be restricted because of this. It's not just a Muslim versus Hindu issue. If you want to have one particular law for the entire country, I would suggest to the government that if they're serious about this issue, they put a draft out for public discussion, conduct consultations with stakeholders, and then come to Parliament with something which has been fairly fleshed out.
मुझे लगता है इन राजनीतिक दलों को अपनी बात कहने दीजिए। जनता के सामने इनका चेहरा बेनकाब हो जाएगा। ये कभी धारा 370 को गलत कहते थे, ये कहते थे धारा 370 हटाना गलत है, ये कहते थे ट्रिपल तलाक का कानून लाना गलत है, ये कहते थे राम मंदिर बनाना गलत है, और जिस बात को इन्होंने गलत कहा, जनता ने इनको वहां तक पहुंचाया कि आज 40-44 सीटों तक सीमित होकर रह गए।
देखिए, सैद्धांतिक रूप से हम इसके समर्थन में हैं। आर्टिकल 44 भी इसका समर्थन करती है कि देश में यूसीसी होनी चाहिए, लेकिन चूंकि यह मुद्दा ऐसा है जिसमें कि सभी धर्म संप्रदाय से जुड़ा हुआ है, इसलिए हम ये चाहते हैं कि इस मुद्दे के लिए वाइडर कंसल्टेशन हो, लार्ज स्केल पर बातचीत हो, सभी धर्म से, सभी संप्रदाय से, सभी राजनीतिक दलों से।
प्रधानमंत्री ने कह दिया कि इम्प्लीमेंट होना चाहिए, तो फिर राय की क्या आवश्यकता है? इम्प्लीमेंट होना चाहिए तो कर दें, अगर कर सकते हैं तो कर दें। राय लेने का मतलब ये होता है कि हम राय ले रहे हैं, अभी हमने अपना माइंड मेकअप नहीं किया है। हम राय लेंगे, उस पर विचार करेंगे, अध्ययन करेंगे, अध्ययन करने के बाद निष्कर्ष निकलेगा। हम निष्कर्ष क्या है उसको एक्सप्लेन करेंगे और फिर हम एक रिपोर्ट देंगे ताकि लोग उस रिपोर्ट को पढ़ सकें। आज तो मालूम ही नहीं कि आप क्या करने जा रहे हैं, या अगर आपने ये तय कर लिया है कि हम ये करेंगे ही, तो फिर राय लेने का क्या फायदा?
There is Law Commission. Law Commission has been asked to seek the views from various sections on this particular issue, and Law Commission has started seeking the opinions. Law Commission has not come to any specific conclusion yet, and in the meantime, if Prime Minister starts speaking openly, then it creates certain questions, it raises certain questions.
अरे उनको पूछो ना कि पहले रोजगार कैसे दोगे यार, महंगाई कैसे घटाओगे, पहले उस पर बात करो ना। अरे उनको पूछो ना कि पहले रोजगार कैसे दोगे यार, महंगाई कैसे घटाओगे, पहले उस पर बात करो ना।
Taking you down south to the state of Karnataka, where hours after the Karnataka police filed an FIR against BJP's IT cell head Amit Malviya for a tweet against Rahul Gandhi, Union Minister Smriti Irani on Wednesday slammed the Congress, saying it did not answer whether Rahul met Sunita Vishwanath during his trip to the United States or not. She alleged that Gandhi was hobnobbing with those backed by George Soros, a Hungarian-American businessman who is accused of funding groups to change regimes. The minister also alleged that Rahul's interaction with NRI in New York was organized by Tazim Ansari, who was an organizational link with Jamaat-e-Islami.
Is it true that Sri Gandhi met Sunita Vishwanath during his trip to the United States of America? Ladies and gentlemen of the press, you are aware that I myself had done a press conference with regards to George Soros's intentions to destabilize a democratic elected government in India. Question is, when it is known to every Indian what George Soros intends to do, why is Mr. Gandhi hobnobbing with those who are funded by George Soros? श्री गांधी की 4 जून की न्यूयॉर्क की बैठक में रजिस्ट्रेशन के लिए एक व्यक्ति का नाम और नंबर दिया गया। उस व्यक्ति के श्री अंसारी उनके संबंध पाए गए इस्लामिक सर्कल ऑफ नॉर्थ अमेरिका से। इस्लामिक सर्कल ऑफ नॉर्थ अमेरिका के बारे में 28 फरवरी 2019 में यूएस कांग्रेस में हाउस ऑफ रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स में एक रेजोल्यूशन के बारे में कहा गया कि इसका संपर्क और संबंध जमाते इस्लामी के साथ है। ऐसा क्यों है कि पब्लिक डोमेन में जिनका संबंध और संपर्क जमाते इस्लामी के साथ है, उनका सहारा लेने की कांग्रेस पार्टी को नौबत आ पड़ी। आप सबके ध्यान में आया होगा, भारतीय जनता पार्टी के कार्यकर्ता भी जानते हैं कि इस विषय को उठाने के लिए कांग्रेस पार्टी ने एक एफआईआर दर्ज की। एफआईआर का निश्चित रूप से पॉलिटिकल स्वरूप देश को समझ आता है। जून का महीना है, आपातकाल की याद निश्चित ताजा करते हुए गांधी खानदान ने पुनः देश को यह प्रमाण दिया है कि चाहे राज्य में उनके पास सत्ता आ जाए, वो सच को दबाने के लिए किस हद तक जा सकते हैं।
Staying with Karnataka, but shifting focus to a very different story, which is about the overcrowding issue in the buses. Because even as many are appreciating the Karnataka government's Shakti scheme for providing free bus rides to women in the state-run buses across Karnataka, the regular bus users are miffed against the government as the overcrowding in buses has become a major cause for concern. Now, the regular commuters, which include a vast majority of students, are now slamming the government and demanding Chief Minister Siddaramaiah to induct more buses at the earliest. Now, CNN News 18's Ritu brings you this ground report from Bengaluru's Majestic bus stop, which is one of the most popular bus stops in the city.
It's become a major cause for concern. Now, many regular bus users are demanding Congress government to soon come up with a remedy to tackle this particular issue, because there is a lack of bus facility in just not one part of the state but also across the Karnataka. Well, there has also been various incidents across the state where there has been an accident, and also that people getting into an argument with the conductors, or also that the passengers arguing within themselves for the space. But needs to be seen now how is that the Congress government is going to tackle this issue. Now, all 4 RTCs currently have around 24,000 buses and around 22,000 buses are operational. Now, many mobility experts say that there should at least be 120 buses per 1 lakh people. But needs to be seen now how is that the Congress government is going to find a solution, as even many people appreciate government's Shakti scheme. Even as women passengers in Karnataka are enjoying free bus rides as part of Congress government's ambitious scheme, the Shakti scheme, the state-run transport corporations are struggling to keep pace and demand as overcrowded buses has become a major cause for concern. Well, I am right now in Majestic, which is a popular bus stop in the Bengaluru, and here you can see in the BMTC bus how people are all standing with no space and are really struggling as well to find space for themselves. So, well, that is the reality right now. Well, many are here appreciating Congress government's Shakti scheme, but right now they are also demanding that the Congress government should really come up with an solution immediately, because there is a lack of bus facility in just not one part of Karnataka but also across the state.
ಫುಲ್ ಬಸ್ಸು ಫುಲ್ಲು ಯಾವುದು ಖಾಲಿ ಇರಲ್ಲ, ಫುಲ್ ರಶ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅದೊಂದು ಮೇನ್ ಥಿಂಗು. ಇವಾಗ ಒಂದು ಫುಲ್ ರಶ್ ಆಯ್ತಾರೆ, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಬಸ್ಸೇ ಬರಲ್ಲ ಹಿಂದೆ. ಬೇರೆ ಬಸ್ ಬೇಗ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಅಂದ್ಕೊಂಡು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಇದೆ ಬಸ್ಸು.
रिस्ट्रिक्ट कर दीजिएगा आप 2 ट्रिप से ज़्यादा ना करें तो हो सकता है थोड़ा सा कम हो जाए. दिस इज द ओनली सॉल्यूशन आई कैन सजेस्ट.
ಅಂದರೆ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಇವಾಗ ಡೈಲಿ ಹೋಗುವಂಥವ್ರಿಗೆ ಏನು ಸಮಸ್ಯೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ, ತುಂಬ ಅನುಕೂಲ ಇದೆ. ಬಟ್ ಇವಾಗ ಫ್ರೀ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿರುವಂಥ ಎಲ್ಲ ಲೇಡೀಸು ಕೂಡ ಯಾತ್ರಾ ಸ್ಥಳಗಳಿಗೆ ಹೋಗೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಫುಲ್ಲು ಒಬ್ಬರ ಮೇಲೆ ಒಬ್ಬರು ಬೀಳೋದು ಹಿಂಗೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇದು ಪಬ್ಲಿಕ್ ಪ್ರಾಪರ್ಟಿ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಜನರು ಕೂಡ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಬಸ್ಗಳಿಗೆಲ್ಲ ಬೇರೆ ರೀತಿ ರೂಲ್ಸ್ ತಂದರೆ ಬೆಟರ್ ಅನಿಸುತ್ತೆ.
Out of 25,000 villages, except 300 villages, we have transportation. Every day, 156 trips will be there. Maybe 1 or 2, that's all. 99.9% there is transportation system in our Karnataka. Even for students also, we will provide some more buses at the time of schools and colleges, even in peak hours also.
A majority of adolescent girls in India remain unaware of menstruation until they get their first period, and millions of them drop out of school during their menstruation as well. Thus, menstrual hygiene education and awareness, coupled with access to sanitation facilities, is a prerequisite for girls' well-being and retention in schools. Here's a special report.
For many adolescent girls in India, the onset of menstruation is laden with stigma and social exclusion. Millions of them drop out of school due to cultural taboos and lack of basic sanitation facilities such as clean toilets.
Girls, once they came into menstruation age, actually wound up not going to class on those days because they did not have access to a toilet or did not feel comfortable in the environment they were in. So both in terms of access to girls' toilets being separated from the boys, and that in itself has become a very important game changer of girls staying in school over this time. And the other was the shame attached to being in a menstrual cycle is something which is now getting discussed more openly, and families, girls are being taught how to deal with this.
Striving for improved menstrual health and hygiene management, News18 Network and Harpic are raising awareness and driving advocacy for better sanitation and clean toilets through Mission Swachhata or Pani.
Well, it's time for us to slip into a very short break, but news and updates continue on the other side, so stay with us.
Which has been kept out of the reach of the HR&C department by the Supreme Court. Actually, it is a war against the Supreme Court. I don't know who advises the government. Obviously, the government has committed a huge, what I can say, not only fault, I think they have taken the Hindu bhaktas for granted. You see, there is nothing like the devotees demanding anything. The devotees will always like to see the Lord, but there is some discipline of the whole samskaras of the temple that during a particular period you don't allow people to come into a podium. It's a small podium, it's not a large podium. Hundreds of people can't stand there. Only some 20-30 people can stand. And it is only those who are actually performing the rituals who can be there. And thousands and thousands of devotees come there. All of them would like to climb. Obviously, they will be told in this period you can't climb. In other period, they will be allowed in queue or something. This is the normal thing. This has been going on for generations. It is not a rule which was framed day before yesterday. But to make this as some kind of violation of the rights of the devotees, to seek to invade the temple, and HRNC department has no locus in the temple, appointing an executive officer and giving the executive officer police powers, and in police she goes and climbs and sits there. I think it is atrocious. I mean, it is only because it is not only Hindus who are weak in Tamil Nadu. If it were any other community, they would not have attempted this. If it is any other caste also, they would not have attempted this. This is a Brahmin caste. They will not protest. They will not throw stones. In the process, you also subjected them to the cruelty of levying charge against them for child marriage and subjecting those girls to two-finger tests, which was obnoxious. And that was a subject of official communication by the governor. But this is all not taken notice of. And these are all supposed to be governments which are running on some high principles of democracy, freedom, and Dravidian model. I think what is happening.
But their point of view, Professor Gurumurthy, is,
Gurumurthy sir, their point of view, you've said that it is deliberately targeting the Dikshitars because they are Brahmins and they are a small community. But their point of view is that there are complaints from the Bhaktas. People have complained, so HRNC has come there. There has been an instance of child...
rupees.
Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. Our next story is very important one and is a breaking news because we are going to show you the first photos. Now these are the first photos that have been released of that recovered Titan submersible wreckage. The first photos were released of the pieces from the Titan submersible wreckage more than a week after a catastrophic implosion killed almost all 5 passengers who were on board on that Titan submersible. The debris from the Titan was brought ashore by deep-sea robots on Wednesday as the US Coast Guard continues recovery operations following the sub's catastrophic implosion, and now we are showing you the first visuals of it as well. The Titan's wreckage was seen for the first time in pictures after the Coast Guard announced on 22 June that remotely operated vehicles found its chamber in a sea of debris 1,600 feet from the bow of Titanic, roughly 12,000 feet below the ocean surface. We are also telling you that all 5 passengers on board were sadly dead. Now, first photos have been released of that recovered Titan submersible wreckage. These first photos were released of the pieces from the Titan submersible wreckage more than a week after a catastrophic implosion killed all 5 passengers on board. Moving on. Now, darshan of the holy Mount Kailash from India's own land will be reality soon. You may be surprised to hear this, but it is 100% true. Earlier, the devotees have to visit China for darshan, but now Mount Kailash will be seen from Old Lipu Lake in Uttarakhand's Pithoragarh. Take a look at this ground report.
चमोली में लगातार रुक रुक कर बारिश का दौर जारी है और बारिश की वजह से सबसे अधिक जो स्थिति खराब है वो ग्रामीण इलाकों को जोड़ने वाली सड़कों का है। अगर हम बात करें तो दसोली से लेकर पोखरी, थराली और जोशीमठ विकासखंड में लगभग सभी सड़कों पर मलबा गिर रहा है, जिससे घंटों तक मार्ग बाधित रह रहा है। तो वहीं नंदप्रयाग घाट को जोड़ने वाली सड़क भी 3 दिनों से बंद पड़ी हुई है, जिसे खोलने का काम जारी है। हालांकि विभागों का कहना है कि व्यवस्थाओं को ठीक कर दिया जाएगा, लेकिन धरातल पर मानसून से पहले की तैयारियां नगण्य ही दिखाई दे रही है।
Shifting focus now to Tamil Nadu, where on Wednesday, Chidambaram temple priests were booked for restricting police and Hindu religious and charitable endowments department officials from offering prayers on the sacred stage inside the temple. Now, CNN News 18's Anand Narasimhan spoke exclusively to senior advocate J. Sai Deepak on this particular issue. Listen in.
Let me ask you on the Chidambaram temple, where do you stand? Because this has been an issue for a while with this temple. It's done the rounds of the Supreme Court. There's a Supreme Court judgment that protects the rights of the Dikshitars. But it's back in focus this time again, and it's the HRNC department, the state, that has now taken up the cudgel, saying there is gross mismanagement. How do you read the situation, Sai?
So, if there is a textbook instance of what is wrong with state control of Hindu religious institutions, despite a clear verdict from the Supreme Court, the highest constitutional court of the land, in the context of a denominational institution that enjoys rights under Article 26, which is perhaps the strongest of rights that a religious institution can get under the Constitution, this is that example. Okay, what can a politically motivated, an anti-Hindu, anti-Brahmin government do, despite the verdict of the Supreme Court? If there is a clear-cut example that people want to look at, here's the case study with the DMK in power in the Tamil Nadu state. So let me explain this. This fight started way back in the in the pre-constitution period. Okay, with Shirur Mutt from South Canada, of what is known as Karnataka today, and Chidambaram temple, jointly challenging the 1927 HRC legislation of the then Madras presidency. Okay, because notifications were issued for takeover of these institutions. Okay, and this was done in so this was with respect to the 1927 notification. Subsequently, in 1950, our constitution comes into force. By 1951, a new legislation has come about. Okay, which is the previous HRC legislation prior to the one which is currently in force, which came into existence in 1959. Okay, that legislation is challenged before the Supreme Court. And in that particular judgment, which is known as the famous Shirur Mutt judgment of the Supreme Court, the court categorically holds what are the metes and bounds and circumstances in which the state can step into the picture, but never to take over any institution. You can just take it over for very limited purposes, to set the house in order and get out of the picture. Okay, that is when the saga began for this particular temple. But then comes the 1959 Act, which reproduces in sum and substance the very same provisions which were struck down by the Supreme Court in 1951. And under that legislation, executive officers are appointed one way or the other without any reason. And in most instances, the Tamil Nadu government, regardless of who has been in power, has never given clear reasons as to why a particular temple needs to be taken over, which is among the first reasons required, or one of the first requirements under administrative law. So for instance, if it is a non-state private property and the state wants to step into the particular picture, it has to say, I'm doing so under this power. I'm doing so because there is a specific circumstance that warrants it. I want to do so to achieve a particular end, and I will finish this in a certain time period. None of these things have ever been satisfied by the Tamil Nadu HRC government. Okay, all this litigation ultimately comes to a head. And on 6th of January 2014, in the judgment known as Subramania Swamy versus so-and-so, the Supreme Court comes out with a very clear verdict saying, this is a denominational institution. You cannot supersede or take over control in the name of setting the house in order. And this is what you've been doing. So please vacate the picture, get out of the picture. This happens in 2014. Please note, one of the things that the Supreme Court notes in the judgment is, you were supposed to come out with specific rules since 1959 to show what are the circumstances in which executive officers can be appointed. Can you guess when the rules actually were notified? November 2015, after the Supreme Court's verdict of 2014. Today, you're in 2023, and those who've been following what's been happening with the Chidambaram temple over the last 7 years will tell you, state governments have tried to, if I would say, extract revenge from this temple for having succeeded in the Supreme Court.
How does this matter proceed? Because there is only a legal solution to it. Politically, there is no solution right now. The legal solution has to be in the top court of the country, because the Supreme Court passed the ruling in 2014, and what is happening is in gross violation, as you said, of the court orders. So who takes this story forward to the Supreme Court?
So
Are you willing to represent it?
Of course. And I'm certainly in communication with the people who represent their interests on the ground. I will certainly bat for this community no matter what, no matter how politically incorrect it gets. I have embraced all sorts of labels and certificates that have come my way, so I have no problems whatsoever. I'm past caring for any of these. I don't give up on the political aspect for one or two reasons. You know this, Anand, that over the last 5 to 6 years, temple control and relinquishment of state control over temples has gained traction like never before. So this is no more an issue with respect to Tamil Nadu. This is an issue that applies across the board, regardless of who's in power. I don't think any party in this country can actually say confidently that it has done justice to Hindus when it comes to this particular issue. Those who tried to play with the Sabarimala temple were scared of the political consequences, and they were forced to change their position in court. Okay? And this is hardcore left, CPIM. Okay? And there's a saying in Tamil, which is, if you touch Shiva's property, it will lead to destruction of your lineage. That is our belief as Saivites. And I'm a proud Saivite. So I dare you to touch this property again, and let's see if the law of karma doesn't set itself in action.
Well, a lot to tell you about that and more, but for now it's time for me to wrap up. But don't go anywhere, as I'll come right back with more news and updates on the other side.